quick video.
Got the door shutting good.
I got the mirror all reassembled, so that's nice. This is just like, this whole car is just full of stuff like this. This is the spot where the armrest screw plugs go, and they're just like they're blown out. So I'm going to have to press them back in, probably pop a little weld in the corner, grind it smooth. I had to put new pins in. As you can see, this one's wallered out. This was disgusting and seized. So I got that loosened back up. In the process, I saw what the throttle body looks like. Oh my. Look at the back of this thing. And look at all that stuff that just fell out from me doing that. I guess when I have this off, I'm going to test the IAC and the TPS, throttle position sensor, idle air control. Whoever spray painted this, don't do things like that. Blue rattle can on here, and I hate these. Yellow valve gaskets, why? Don't do that. This rear brake line fitting leaks, so I've got to fix that. I did find a massive air leak right here, so I cut that hose and reclamped it. And my AC, just a little bit at the top. The relay clicks, the pump doesn't run, doesn't appear that there's any oil in it. Looks like the lines are damaged. So got the throttle body all cleaned up. Looking much nicer. And since I had the throttle body off, fixing a couple of these, soldering them properly. All right, I think I figured something out. So it runs, idles, but something's definitely not right. And thinking, you know, what could this be? Do I have failing injectors? Remember, I have an early 80s block, which appeared to be a non-HO by the casting number, but it was hard to tell. But I have the HO pattern in there. And I had noticed that when I changed plugs, that some of the plugs were different. So let me show you. So that's burning like you'd like, that's burning like you'd like, really rich, really rich. That's burning like you'd like, that's burning like you like, really rich, really rich. Well, I was taking my son to school today and I thought, I wonder if I should compare the non-HO to the HO timing order versus the spark plugs. So 1, 2, 6, and 8 share the same, like they fire in the same sequence in the HO and the non-HO. Look at this. 1, 2, 6, 8 are the ones that are burning fairly normal. And the other ones, carbon. So they never swapped the cam. And it's more complicated than just changing all your plug wires because your injectors fire, the computer is firing the injectors in the HO pattern. I have heard that you can move the injectors, but I'm going to have to do some research on that. Fighting this enough that I'm like half tempted just to rip all that junk off, throw a carb on it, be done. All right, so maybe I found a solution. So I was reading, okay, we've got a non-HO block in here, pretty much determined that by the spark plugs and the casting number all say that. So I'm gonna try just change the plugs around because that's determined by the cam. So at least we'd have spark going right, and yeah, there's probably still gonna be things that aren't right in it. you can change the injectors, but then there's other things that the computer's expecting, and you're not. It's sending fuel to what the computer thinks is the wrong cylinders and all that. So the computer doesn't control spark at all. So hopefully, we're gonna try this over. So I switched it back to the speed density computer. Switched all the wires back in the harness. That only took about half hour. I switched the firing order, so we'll see what that does. I won't put hearing muffs on so I don't blow my eardrums off if it backfires like crazy. Here goes nothing. That actually sounds pretty good. Oh, it's smoking like crazy. Got it running good. Figured out a way to have it run decent without.
All right, so I'm out here putzing around this afternoon, Sunday afternoon, took a nap. I found this under the seat and I just thrown it up on the dash and hadn't actually looked at it. But check this out. Mileage 42,772 is the next service date, and it's due on January 2002. Well, check this out. 42845. Maybe this is actually a 42,000 mile car. That would be crazy. Well, you look at the foot pedals, and yeah, that brake's got a bit of wear on it. The clutch and gas don't look that bad though. No, that's kind of a cool clue though. Hang on to that. Marketplace for the win. New headlights with bulbs for like a third of the price. Still in the box. We'll get rid of these old dudes. That one the lenses broke off of. Let's pop them in and see how they look. Ended up taking the kiddos to the park, so I only did one side tonight, but check this out.
I need an exhaust boot underneath there because I'm getting exhaust actually coming out of here in the ashtray. JB welded that. Mint. Got this loose. So now, and heat does work. AC is all disconnected, but blows vent at least. We got an appropriate battery in here instead of marine battery, and a new ground wire that's much nicer. Here in a second I'm going to put on, thanks to eBay, the actual boot here. So I tried to drive it to work yesterday and it died in the middle of an intersection conveniently. Once I finally got it pushed out of the way, then it started right up. But when I brought it home to pull it out of the garage later in the day, it died again and wouldn't start. So we've got some kind of no start. It cranks fine, and I've got fuel pressure, so I'm guessing we don't have spark, so we'll diagnose that here in a little bit. Figure out what's going on. Perhaps the old laser shot gave out. All right, so I'm in the middle of working on this mess again, and I now have all of these changes. Here's all my notes on my changes. So it turns out the speed density computers were still sequential fire. They weren't batch fire. Like, my car's running super rich. The injectors aren't hitting in the right place. 2 cylinders on each bank are firing in the wrong, gas is firing in the wrong time. So I've got rough idle, running really rich. So I'm switching it back to the A9L. Switched it back to mass airflow. So I did all that switch. I wired in a light for check engine light because the 86 didn't have one, so I tapped into that. Pin 17 sends it to the where you put your tester in under the hood. Can't remember what that's called, but you can tap into that and make your own check engine light. And then I swapped 2 injectors, so now the injectors will fire in the right order, but the computer will think that 2 of the injectors are on a different bank. So that causes trim issues when the O2 sensor is viewing lean on this side. It's going to add fuel, but it's actually adding fuel to both sides. And so then the one side thinks it's rich and the one side thinks it's lean, and you can get in this cycle. So from what I've read, in F-150 applications, when they switch to mass airflow, they just take one O2 sensor and then they send the signal from the one O2 sensor to both the right and left pins. I think they're 43 and I guess I didn't write it down. So I did that. I just made a little jumper harness at the O2 sensor connector. So I just pulled the 2 pins. So I didn't actually cut any of my O2 wires. So it's really easy to switch back. All I had to do is unplug it and plug it back in. So yeah, now I'm ready to put the A9L back in for the, I don't even know. I've switched back and forth like 5 times. Actually, it's probably only been like 4. And I tried driving it to work for the first time, even though it's been running rich, and I lost spark at the biggest intersection in town. I was able to push it out of the way. The car's just so light. And then a couple minutes later it restarted, but I got a 14 code. There's a PIP sensor, I think, so it's distributor related. All right. So that's back. We'll go connect the battery, start it up, see what it does. Just gonna have to learn a little bit. If anything, it's running rougher. It does still smell pretty rich. I don't know. Let it run for a little bit and learn. It does have significantly more power set up that way. Spun the tires a little easier. Really rumbles when you're downshifting. Still, it's not running smooth. It's still missing a little bit. So we'll go ahead and start, check timing, do all that stuff again. But did pop a new seal in there. There wasn't even one in there at all. And we got some leaks coming from the transmission, tail shaft, and I think one of the sensors, it's got a little leak, and the rear diff leaks too. So a couple leaks to fix there. I'm not leaking any oil though. All right, so we're gonna a few minutes here, and we're gonna replace the transmission. Why do I always blank whenever I'm taking these videos? Mount. It's totally trashed on this one, so we got a new one for $6 on Rock Auto. So let's get her done. I got about an hour. mount in. And the old one is just obliterated. The new one's got a bigger nut, so we need to go get some new hardware. And now I lost my other bolt, but oh, here it is. These are used and abused. The other side is even quite a bit worse. So I'm just gonna get new ones. I don't wanna, the other one was real close to stripping out. So we'll get new ones of those, bolt that up. Then we're waiting on the gear for the new Speedo cable. Plug those in. All right, out here working on the Mustang again. One thing after another, right? Just slowly working through stuff, really. I hate these valve covers, by the way. And they're leaking in the back, so they need new gaskets. I tightened the bolts up a little bit. That probably won't do anything. But I have the exhaust manifold off because the gasket had blown out. You can actually see right there. Blown out. Just had a good kick starting. And of course, made this mess. The studs were bad. There wasn't any threads left on them. Couldn't get this one on top out. So I had to cut the bolt off and then ruin 2 drill bits and stuff trying to get, and a die grinder trying to get that hole opened up, but we got it opened up. So now we're gonna put that header back on. And then I've got stuff to hook up underneath for the Speedo cable. And a radiator overflow cap coming in the mail today, so we don't have to use this anymore. Or plug the battery back in and drive it around and let it learn a little bit. Hopefully it drives pretty good. That's the hope. All right, the seat back had a lot of bend to it. It was caving in on the, see, this would sit like this. This corner was caving, so you can cave when you drive. There's this brace in here, and a whole bunch of the pop welds all pulled out in here, so that brace wasn't actually doing anything. So I'm gonna have to fix that crack. I think there was one more somewhere else. I've got these welded back together. Now I'm gonna get that welded back together. Then we can have a seat that's nice and sturdy when we're shifting hard. Alright, got the seat repaired. Now we gotta reassemble. That should be fun. Alright, here's the door card. Unfortunately, it would have been really nice, except they put a little speaker right here. And here. And here. And some water damage. Got a little update for you. Got some parts in. My vinyl lowered. Well, I got new door cards, insulation, and the plastic shield that goes under there because these are trashed. I got a lock. I'm gonna put that in right now. For this, I got the new inner and outer door strips. I thought this was part of the door strip, but apparently there's a second piece of trim that goes on there. So at some point we'll need to track that down. So I'm gonna go ahead and put these on there so my door doesn't rattle when I drive around. All right, got that window trim on. The window now all seals up. It isn't loose in there. Got my lock in there. And they had a non-oil treated hose. This is the new one. For the power steering pump. So I've driven it a few times in that lime blue. So I'm gonna pop this back on. And we're gonna put this whole throttle body EFI system and 14-pound injectors in that computer. So basically then we have a full non-HO setup in here. All right, today's fun is we're gonna install this Pro 5 Power Tower shifter. Also going to replace that bushing in there and a new gasket. And then we're gonna put the short throw shifter that came with it, but we're gonna put this ball on it. I really like this shifter's looks, but I wanna try out the shorter one. I do have to reach a little to get to third. And then we'll put that all back together. And we have a battery tray to pop in. I'm gonna paint the mirrors too at some point. Yeah. We have an ice storm outside.
No, let's show them at that hole.
Yeah, yuck. But
You're walking on ice right now. Look at
50 degrees in here. Got my mirrors painted up. They look pretty nice. And then we're gonna work on door card. So we can't get that wrapped up. All right, we made some pretty good progress. Got our new door clips in. The metal was starting to pucker, so I had to straighten that out. I did test fit it and yanked on it, and it was holding. Here's our dirty, disgusting armrest. We gotta clean that up. And then we gotta put new plastic on there for weather shield. Right here we've got some sound deadener that we're gonna put on the back of our freshly redone door card. We got new lower carpet, and the actual card itself has been replaced. And we've got new weather strip for the window. And then painted the mirrors. Looks nice. Here it goes. New door panel going on. All right, time for the reveal. Nice. I just wish it didn't have those holes there. Otherwise it'd be so clean. Check it out. Check it out. Boom. We got volts going. Still got to hook up the lines for these, but nice. We got the 14-pound injectors put in so we could run the non-HO computer and it'll trim itself properly. So if we ever want to have true Mustang power, we'll have to swap in a different engine. At least this way it'll be running right. They had the valve covers painted orange. I did run a new gauge. Did get the valve covers media blasted, so got rid of that nasty yellow paint. So that's gonna look good once we get those on there. Happy about that. Then it's on to repairing the fuel injector harness, which had all these crimp things in it. So we'll get that actually soldered and cleaned up. dropped the tank, put in a new sending unit. And I now have a gauge that works. Woo! Sticking the new computer in that works with our non-HO engine. Got the valve covers clean, got a top plate on there. Just gotta put the air cleaner back on. Next up is working on the top. So I got the motor working. So we got some new hydraulic lines. That's what's going in. And you can see it's super cobbled in here. All kinds of unions and junk. So get that in. Then we're gonna build I'm gonna cap that and build a floor plate over that. I've got carpet for that. And then we got an exhaust leak to fix. And it's always had strong fuel smell. So if it's running good, probably gonna put high flow cats on it. Just some Flowmaster ones just to get rid of that because that's unpleasant. Carpet's coming out. Gonna put new carpet in. Couldn't handle it anymore. Also got some new carpet for back there. Go ahead and take this out. About what I figured from the bottom. There's a bad spot right here that needs some repair. And the floor pan's really solid here, but right at the seam, there's some soft spots. It's not as bad as it looks. We'll get it cleaned up. Oh, I got excited. I thought that was gonna be a build sheet or something. Put some little patches in. Pretend we didn't see the rest. Put some new carpet in. Not really as bad as I thought. Got the bad stuff cut out. This little spot was a little tricky, but this is really solid still. Here's our piece. Cut that out. This is definitely doing it the way that works, not the right way. Just didn't want to buy a whole new floor plan just for that one little patch. And there will be another patch right in that corner. And I think I'm just gonna redo the floor plan to firewall seam. Just needs like 2 inches of it redone. Get ready to cringe. First of all, this is what I took out. Okay. So, got a patch welded in here. And 2 patches up there. Never welded very much before, so. But you don't learn unless you try, unless you do. So, I think that'll be good enough. We'll put a lot of seam seal, rust treat it, paint it. At least there won't be any soft spots. Doing the right thing, the wrong thing the right way, I don't know. Yeah. Patch, little license plate. What's this? Don't look. Oh, yeah. Money? Nope. Those are patches. Oh, and back here, of course, naturally, filled in the fuel pump panel. Boom. I'm working on cleaning the seats. This one's quite a bit cleaner than that one. Gonna do a couple more rounds of it. Did get the paint off the side. That made me happy. And our new carpets here. A little bit nicer. Baby Claire's driving. All right, we're putting in new speakers up here, 3.5 inchers. I got some Pioneer 450 Max, 100 RSM. And then I got a Pioneer deck, so we're wiring all that in. I got way overkill on the speaker wire, but whatever. So we're chasing, just running all new speaker wire, new ground, and I did find power key and constant back there. Flowmaster cats in here now. We had all this working. That plug leaks, so I'm getting a new one, but this cylinder blew a seal, so now I'm waiting on that. Here's our new deck, our speakers. In the rears, I've got some old Sony Explods, so we'll just run those until we have other problems. Got some new seals here. Took the seatbelts off, power washed those. Before. After. I can't believe all that goop came out of there. That's crazy. Alright, it's been a little while since we've done an update. Been driving it. We did get all weather stripping here done, this repainted, reinstalled. There's a rivet you have to take off there, a screw here, and then there's a screw up in here that's not fun to get to. Took off all this. That's a huge pain. There's a screw inside there, and then I think there's one right here that's really hard to get at. So we're gonna repaint all those pieces, and these were cracked on mine, so I got new ones. They are not cheap, so be careful with them. And then somebody gave me a sub-over, so we'll go ahead and wire it in just since we're doing it. And then I got a new shift cable boot because I've got a little bit of heat that comes up here from the exhaust. Yeah, otherwise the interior, pretty happy with it. I need to get the computer box tucked back in there. I think we're done with that. No leaking on the convertible top though, so that problem is solved. Oh, and we put a new door latch on there so the door doesn't rattle. Trim work, these are new. Got that all painted all the way around. Pretty dirty. Still need to come up with a solution for this. Anyways, got a little work doing, cleaning the top. I read that simple green does good. I still have to patch that one spot. The interior is all in. Basically done as far as that goes. Our alternator went, gotta shorten it. So the original alternators are only like a 60 amp alternator. So we got 130 amp wiring kit. I'm gonna pop that in there, and then that'll give us lots of power. I did wire in for a sub-over, so if I ever used that, we'd have plenty of power. We could also run electric fans in the future if we wanted to. So, big update here. There's a new car. This is a red GT80, and also an 86. I had such a hard time finding that trim piece that I found it on this car. The guy didn't want to part those trim pieces off the door, so I went ahead and purchased this whole car. I forgot to take a video, so I'm just doing a voiceover here while I did a walk around on it. But yeah, I got the whole car for $500, and it had some nice pieces. The Celine wing you saw there. Inside there's a light bar. That was the trim piece there that I really wanted for the whole car. I've since sold that door. Made some money back. Also sold the engine for $600. that was in it, so I made my money right there. But when I picked this car up, the guy also had a 92 50, you know, an HO, the correct 302 for my, well, for the Fox bodies. The 86 engines had flat top pistons, but the 92 had the ones with the relief valves, a little more sought after. Once again, they got forged pistons in those. So hopefully this winter I'm going to swap that engine into the Mustang and replace it. So yeah, just finishing the walk around of this car. It also has a good front clip on it, and so I took the front clip off of this parts car, and we're going to put that on this winter as well, because on the blue car somebody had tried to tow it and bent the radiator core support all up real bad, and also there's a little bit of damage on some of the other pieces. So yeah, I made my money back on it. Had to go all the way to Illinois to get it, so that was a long day. Thankful for a friend who was able to loan me a truck and trailer to get it. The guy also gave me these Celine style mesh rims. They're pretty good looking from 20 foot. I do like that style rim. They are a 15-inch tire. I think they'd look good to paint them white. Here's me pulling out that engine that did come with the 86 car. Really made the deal pretty sweet. Don't worry, that car was pretty roached. The floors were shot. The panel where you connect to the doors are all rusted out, huge holes there. The rear frame portion is totally rusted out as well. Alright, here's something that I ran into on my 86 convertible GT that I haven't been able to find any information on anywhere, so maybe this will be helpful. So on my car, it was repainted before I got it, and it was missing this trim piece right here, okay? Well, first of all, when you start to describe that to people, they're gonna start telling you that, okay, well, this is what you need right here. No. Okay, that goes on there, covers the pinch weld, and your dew wipe goes into it, okay? Isn't an LMR does have those that fit 86. Then they're going to tell you this. Well, there's this one screw in the back right here, goes in there, and you put them on right here. Okay, it would run into the mirror. Nope, that's not what goes on the 86. What you need is this little piece of aluminum, and there's a little groove in it that goes on these little H clips. They are actually the same diameter as the newer stuff, and they do slide on there. Here, I'll put one in. But then the problem is your thing still stands up on there. So those aren't gonna work. Hopefully I can get those out. I already broke one off. I'll show you on the other side of this car what that looks like installed. So that is very different than you will get. And you need that because on the 86 hockey sticks, or on this piece here, it's got that low profile trim. So I need these. I'll repaint them, you know, and they'll go on there and match that. Very little information. Haven't been able to find these remanufactured anywhere. I actually bought this whole parts card just for this piece. Hopefully I can find those or get them out. It was pretty difficult to get off. You can slide it in the track, and you have to slide it out this way. It's really difficult because of that bend. The track narrows, and there is one little notch here. I'm not sure how that's supposed to help you get them all in, but hopefully there's some helpful information for you in that. And good luck if you need these. So still working on this trim piece here. I was able to find those H clips from National Parts Depot. By the way, kit 1262. By the way, this catalog is awesome. The problem is they don't work. And I heard this review before I bought them. It's the only place I can find them. So these little black grommets snap in here. And then these plastic pieces pop into them. The problem is they bottom out before they engage into the end of those. So I'm thinking there's probably a way that I can modify this and get them to work. I don't know how else to do that though. So I think this will be the final video for part number 2. I'm about ready to tear into the car for what will be part number 3. More about that in a minute. I'll give you a couple more updates we've done. That shifter knob is Onyx. I broke the Hurst one off doing a 1-2 shift, right? That came out of my dad's first car. I think it was a Nissan small truck. So that's kind of neat that is still around. Here's my solution to that bad spot. I just put a little bit of gasket maker on it. You know what? It works. Keeps the water out of it, keeps it from getting worse. One other significant update that was done was once I put that alternator in, the 130 amp one, the belt didn't fit. They were running it without a tensioner before and I could not get that belt on. So I went ahead and bought a tensioner and then realized why they probably had that is I had a clearance problem because the power steering mount or pump was mounted in an AC location. So in the AC cars, it was mounted lower. Couldn't figure out a way to do it other than to buy the power steering pump relocation thing from LMR that brought it up. Finally just did that all. And so pretty much the whole serpentine system is new now. Yeah, that was like $400 I didn't think I was going to spend. I could mention too that the parts car had a steering wheel from an 87 and 93 car in it. I was able to sell that for really good money. It had a really nice steering wheel, cruise, all that. So I sold that for $400, I think. Anyways, I think this video here, where I'm about to end part number 2 of my video series, there is going to be a part number 3, and it's going to be an extensive one. I'll just give you a little highlight of what we're going to be doing in there. That parts car has a good radiator support. It's probably a little hard to see in here, but there you can see it there. That is supposed to be the radiator support. Right in there. That bracket is supposed to be holding the radiator. Obviously super bent. So they must have hooked it up and tried to pull it at some point. Also, this is pretty mangled, this panel right here. And the one on that side is not very good either. So we're gonna go ahead and pull the front clip off that other car and replace basically strut towers forward. So we will pull all this off, the whole front clip, cut out the radiator support, pull this engine, which I have big news on that. While we're there, we'll do a little rust repair on the strut towers. We will do a backyard rattle can rebuild. So we'll probably do oil pump, new oil pan, because this one's pretty rusty. We will clean this up real well. You know, the usuals, plugs, wires, cap, rotor, clean that up. We will put the fuel rail from this car and the injectors that this car was originally running because they're a lot cleaner than this one. Also had a fuel pressure regulator problem with this one, so there's a new fuel pressure regulator. That'll go on here. I will take the valve covers that I had media blasted here. We'll probably clear coat them, swap them on here, new valve cover gaskets. We will paint the block as well.
What else will we do? We might end up putting AC back into the car. But yeah, just kind of your basics here on this. We'll slap it back in the car, put the front clip or the front radiator support from the other car in. Who knows? I might power wash this and paint this while I'm in there. I might even do a wire tuck in that fender while I have that fender off. I don't know. That's getting a little aggressive. But we will put this regular 302 HO motor back in it. The car will be running on an A9L mass airflow. And we'll be back in business with what is supposed to be in this car. And hopefully we can get that all accomplished this winter. All right, to conclude this video, I have some really cool news. In video number 1, I mentioned that I found the previous owner's tax return and other information in there, including a picture. And I was able to track down and find that person on Facebook. And they even had a picture on Facebook of this car. Sent him a Facebook message. Of course, it goes to like that private unknown people message. And so I didn't hear anything back. Well, about a year later, he responded. This was just like last week. And had a ton of very interesting information. The first thing he told me is the engine in it is a 306. So I think that's the 302 board 30 over. So it did need a new engine. He built this engine. It's a 306 board 30 over in a late 80s non-HO block. What did he say? He said he put a different cam in there, a big one, so it had some good lumpity lump. I'm sitting here reading our message so I get all the information. So that would, we've understood that. That would also give us some reasoning why we can't get it to run, why it's not running. It's running fine, but it's running really rich. I'm only getting single-digit mile per gallon in it. And so that would, I think, would account for that. It's running off a speed density computer, non-HO one, and 14-pound injectors, which match. I'm guessing that cam is farther out of spec than that computer is wanting to see. So that makes sense from that perspective. He didn't do anything else to the engine. It's got stock heads, all that. So that is very interesting. That will probably bode well when I pull this engine this winter and sell that engine. He did know the paint color. It's 2002 Ford SVO blue with a huge load of purple pearl in it. So that's going to be very difficult probably to match the pearl side of it. Hopefully the blue is close enough. Alternatively, I could paint that hood and Celine style wing black, and I think that would probably look fine. He did confirm that he sold the car in 2013, which matches everything that I had on it. So here's the story. Before he bought it, some teenager had it, went off the road and wedged it between a tree and a rock. That's why there's damage on the driver's side quarter panel and a bunch of Bondo there. So he bought the car in 2005, 2004, right in that timeline. According to what he said, the kid had wrecked it probably in like 99. And so it had sat for 5 years or so when he bought it. In 2004, 2005, he bought it, built it. His wife had picked out the SVO blue color. He drove it for 4 years, basically to and from work. Sounds like he had other cars. Sounds like he parked it for the winter and came out in the spring and it wouldn't start since he had other cars, drove the other cars, whatever. Eventually needed to leave town. The car was still sitting that way. Sold it for $100 quick. And that would have been in 2013. Now then that was sold, I think, to the owner that I bought it from, and he couldn't figure out why it wouldn't run. So there probably was some underlying issue. The owner that I got it from did eventually get it to run. There was some wiring thing with the coil that he had fixed supposedly, but he's like, it's still not right. Between what we've talked
between me and this owner that I'm talking about that owned it in the early 2000s. He had a different computer in it. Sounds like it was tuned, and you know, this next owner was trying to get it figured out. When I bought it, there were multiple computers. You know, wiring had been messed with. So somewhere along the line, there was somebody was trying to get it to run and didn't have all the information, which is what I had to. It would have saved me a lot of time to been able to communicate with this guy before all that work. But all this information fits exactly. So I asked him the pertinent question. I said, do you know if the odometer is rolled over? Right now it's sitting at like 44,000. He says it's not rolled over. When I bought it wrecked, it had been sitting for 5 years. I fixed it, only drove it a mile to work each day, only drove it for 4 years, and then he parked it. So 2008, 2009, it was parked, and it sat until I bought it. So this is almost a 40-year-old car, and it sat for 21 of its 40 years, essentially. That is crazy. Too bad it wasn't a matching numbers and perfect body and original paint, because it could be worth something. Only 40,000 mile car. That is awesome. He knew all this information. He said, did it have a plexiglass cover on the headlight when he bought it? I said, yes. He's like, yep, definitely the right car. We accidentally broke it. I just slapped that on that to keep the water out of it. I made the joke, are you a Rusty Wallace fan? Because if you remember in video one, when he cleaned it out, there's a bunch of Rusty Wallace memorabilia. He said, well, yeah, I'm a friend of his, or I'm a fan of his, but I'm also a friend of his. Apparently, when Rusty Wallace was designing the Iowa Speedway, this guy was working with him or somehow had connection and spent a lot of time with him. So that's a neat piece to the story. Oh, I asked him about the transmission, and he said, yeah, it is out of a Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. It's the strongest transmission that he could find at the time. He said he went through 3 transmissions in it. Hopefully our luck is a little better. I guess that brings us to a whole other thing for part number 3. But I'm from what I'm reading, sounds like the synchro's going bad between gear 1 and 2. So if you're just driving around town, you don't notice it. But if you're getting on it, which is what's fun, 1 and 2, it grinds a little when it shifts in. It won't go. You got to like really get it in there. Also, the Turbo Coupe was a 4-cylinder car, so the gearing is a lot lower. It's like 4. It's over 4 for first gear, and I think it's like 3, mid 3s. Might be 3.35. I'd have to look up the chart. There's a chart that has it for the V8 T5s, and they had a higher torque rating. So I'll either get this one rebuilt to the V8 specs or maybe look for one. Judging by the year, it probably is a world class from what I read. Anyways, that's another problem to deal with. So, I mean, when it's all said and done, we're going to have gone through everything on this car. Oh, he said they put the front clip off of the 91 in the headlights and grills, because the 91s had 16-inch rims. Apparently those clear better than the 4eyes and the 86 front end. So that's why he did that. Yeah, so lots of information there. Very interesting. Just adds to the story of the car. We're going to do quite a bit of work on it this winter. And most of that is going to be funded by that parts car that I'm slowly selling stuff off of. I've gotten rid of a lot of it. But that is the plan, and you'll have to wait till part number 3 comes out. When we really get this car to a good place, all put back together to what a Mustang should be, and hopefully we can really enjoy it next summer. And I don't really have a lot more plans for it beyond that. Maybe like to put a different hood on it. That'd be fun. I should mention too, this engine that we got out of that 92 Supposedly only has 100,000 miles and has also been sitting since the early 2000s. Turns over good. Sounds like it has good compression. Cross your fingers. So we're going to slap that bad boy in there. Hopefully it runs good and roll with that.